Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Leah Hines, the Executive Director of the Charleston Conference, and our session today is called Open Web Tools 2021. This is this year's installation of a session that's been held at previous Charleston conferences in 2018 and 2019, and we're really happy to welcome Gary and Curtis back today for the latest installation of Open Web Tools. Just a few brief housekeeping announcements before we get started. The session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to everyone who's registered for the session. That'll probably be within a day, 2 at most. We are going to have time for Q&A at the end. This will be a very interactive session. There's going to be polling and questions throughout, but we'll be saving the Q&A portion until the very end, and we'll talk a little bit about how to submit those questions in just a moment. And I do ask that you complete a very brief evaluation. After the session is over, you'll be redirected to that survey. Zoom, everybody probably is very familiar with Zoom at this point, but that's the platform that we're using for today's session. And as I mentioned, we are going to be saving Q&A till the end. If you have any problem with your audio, you can connect by phone. There's some instructions there for how to do that, or you can send me a message in the chat if you're having any difficulty there. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the Q&A right there. That is where we're going to put questions for the end. So if you click Q&A, a little pop-up window will show up. You can put your question there, enter your text, and click send, and we'll hold that for you until the very end of the session. As I mentioned, the session is called Open Web Tools 2021, and our presenters are Curtis Michelson, who is founder and principal of Minds Alert. Curtis, give us a little wave. And Gary Price, co-founder and editor, Library Journal's infoDOCKET. He's an information industry analyst and a librarian. And both of them are longtime attendees and participants and supporters of the conference and Against the Grain, and we're very happy to have them here. So with that, I'm going to turn the show to Gary and Curtis. So y'all take it away.
All right, great. Thanks, Leah. Let me go ahead and share out a screen. Okay. Well, welcome. It's great to kind of be back. This is, gosh, Gary, you were doing this even before we did it as a duo. So I've done it, I think, 3 times with you, but it's all so fun. I love doing this session with Gary.
Me too. With you.
Yeah. I think you all find it fast moving and hopefully mildly entertaining and useful. And so, Leah, it's great to have Charleston hosting this. Thank you very much. So I've got just a couple slides to get us started here. I guess this is our quote, Gary and Curtis's quote of the day. We need our best minds on the most urgent problems, armed with the most timely and reliable, trustworthy information. And we could kind of unpack that piece by piece, but I think, you know, it really nails what this is about and the importance and urgency of this kind of tooling, these sort of resources. Our best minds are students and teachers and faculty and librarians and, you know, and people in corporates too, who are doing innovation and in nonprofits and all across, not just scholarly ecosystem, but, you know, globally. We all need to have tools to stay better informed and to bring the most reliable, right? Gary, key phrase there, reliable and trustworthy information.
From credible sources.
From credible sources in a timely way. And this is what Gary does all the time. So what you're going to see today are a lot of amazing, what we call open web tools that Gary has been sourcing. This is what he does kind of 24/7, and you'll get a taste of it shortly. But let me just give you a little preview of the kind of tools we're going to be doing today. This is one, Gary, Wiki stream. Right. A live running sort of, to me, it's like a godlike interface. This is what I imagine when I think about the people behind tools like Google and Twitter, where they can see what all users are doing, like all the time.
This is, I think this is a great way just to see the volume of what's going on Wikipedia. So what you're seeing right now is a real-time feed or stream of every edit being made on Wikipedia. You could actually increase the speed by going to all Wikipedias.
I'll just do all Wikipedias, and this is the whole planet talking right here.
And then you can actually focus it a little bit more by saying only edits being made by registered users, edits being made by non-registered users, by bots.
Right. Take out the bots.
And when you click on any of these links, it's really interesting too to see that you can actually see what the edit was when the person has just made it.
Yeah, and in this mode, I have it just pulling random background images. I think these are.
We're not seeing that, Curtis. It's
Oh, oh, is it live? You don't see like that sort of Dutch background image on this wiki
no.
screen?
I wonder if your screen froze already.
Might have. I've had that issue a little bit with Zoom. Well, let me go back to the Open Web Tools. Hopefully, you can see the quote. Is the quote available?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
How about if you maybe your other tab? Can we?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's
Right. Now?
nope.
All right. Let me just reshare. I don't know. Zoom's been doing this to me lately. How about now?
No, sir.
Okay. So, well, I guess, Gary, it's okay because that was pretty much what I needed to do on slides, and I can put the polling we need to do in the chat window.
Okay.
So maybe we should just talk about what we mean by open web tools so we kind of have more or less a working rough definition. So Gary, how would you define open web tools, the kind of tools we're going to share today?
Well, one of the issues is that everybody's got a different definition of open, and it's a very dynamic definition many times. What we're talking about today are tools that the end user can use, that anybody can use without encumbering any cost, whether it be a credit card or having to go through a registration process. In some cases, you get extra features if you do register, but most of these things, one click, and you're going to be able to access the full amount of information or the searchability of the actual site.
Yeah,
that's how we're defining it today.
Absolutely. So I'm going to suggest that we get the audience involved here, and I'm going to put up a poll so that they can give us some direction, because every year we just have too many to choose from, and it's often painful for Gary and I to take the 25 resources or 30 that he's found and try to do a top 10, because that's kind of what we'll have time for, 10, 11, 12, maybe a dozen of these to demo and show you today. So we've organized them into topics and categories, and we're going to put a polling tool up here. So let me just type in chat, and I think make sure everybody can see this, panelists and attendees. So the site to go to is menti.com. So if you'll hit that site, I will give you a number to punch in. And that number to enter this poll is, I'll put it in chat, 7927100. Bill says he didn't get it as a link. I'm sorry if it didn't come through in Zoom chat as a link, but if you just do this in a phone, an iPad, any interface will work.
Curtis, would you like me to share my screen with I pulled the Menti site up?
Yeah, if you want to show it, that'd be great. Yeah, menti.com, and then just that code will allow folks to vote. So just some rank order voting here. So yeah, Leah, if you can show, like, select an option. So maybe just pick your top 5 or 6 here. You can see the different categories of open web tools we have this year. So just pick your faves.
And then whatever you select, Gary will talk off the top of his head on whatever your selections are.
Yes.
In a rapid manner. Speak in a rapid manner.
Yeah.
Kind of like a wheel of fortune.
I will literally time box Gary. There will be 3 minutes per demo, and he's going to have to stick to it. So we'll give a little time of that. So Gary, while folks are starting to vote and we're getting some numbers in, why are you so interested in open web tools? How long have you been doing this?
Well, I did, I think, this presentation for 1 or 2 years before you and I started doing it together. But in doing my infoDOCKET site, which is part of Library Journal, and something new that I'm doing, which I encourage all of you to stop by, subscribe. I'm doing something new since the pandemic began for the Association of Research Libraries, ARL. I'm doing something called ARL Day in Review, which we send out, which is available online and also via email. It's updated about 5 o'clock every afternoon. I'm a reference geek for the last 55 and a half years, or 50 when they started reading and going to the library. and one of the greatest things about information, especially in the internet age, is the ability to access it in a timely and efficient manner. The problem is somebody needs to often guide people to what's available out there. So I spend a lot of my day, and I'm a very fortunate person that my avocation became my vocation. And I go searching for these types of resources, monitoring a variety of lists, a variety of websites, and then using what skills I have as a librarian to say this is worth sharing on one of the sites or in a presentation like this. The amount of information from timely and credible information out there is just immense. And that goes beyond text. That also goes into video and audio. The problem is, well, one of the challenges, I should say, is that it's not easy for a lot of people to find in a timely manner, especially that research, unfortunately for many people, has gone to one particular tool. And if it's not in those first 5 or 7 links, it might as well not be there at all. So I think the role of librarian as a curator is one that's very, very important, and one that is rapidly growing.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in from kind of the point of view of innovation, which is what I do a lot with nonprofits and corporates. Timely, reliable, trustworthy information across both the academic corpus and repositories and others is really vital to those folks too. And Gary, something you and I care a lot about is because we have kids in the system, is K through 12 education and the resources we can make available to primary ed as well, and people at that level. So this is vital to an informed citizenry all around.
Absolutely.
And so we care a lot about this, as you can tell. So we're getting some votes in. Folks, continue if you'd like. You can press submit on that poll, even though you've only done your top 5, 6, 7, or 8. Just hit submit. So Gary, you want to take a guess on what's ranking highest with this, I'm going to guess, mostly library-leaning audience we have here today?
Let me open my browser here.
I'll tell you the top 2 right now are research. Oh, ebooks, e-lending tools just went above research and discovery tools. So it looks like we're going to start there with ebooks and e-lending. And I think we have a couple things to share there, don't we?
Yeah. So let me share my screen now. We'll pass it around. And we'll go here and we'll click share. And we'll let this fill up. So many of you are probably familiar with Open Library, which is from one of the many wonderful projects from the Internet Archive. Over the break, the Internet Archive, and specifically the Open Library Project, announced a new way to browse the millions of books they have and the growing number of books they have in their collection. So what I wanted to point out to you today was this new interface that allows you to explore by classification, in this case, Dewey classification, or in other classifications. So for example, and we've provided you a link to learn more about how they're doing it. But as you can see now, you can virtually browse their shelves by different categories, whether it be books with quotations, manuscripts and rare books, ethics, ancient, medieval, Eastern philosophy. So again, it brings that idea of virtually browsing the open library shelves. And this, as I said, is something that they launched at the very end of 2020. The other resource in this category is something that I learned about late last year. And this is from a group of people led by Alex Cabal, based in my hometown of Chicago. And this is called Standard Ebooks. And it's a growing project of just volunteers who are taking open public domain ebooks and making them easier to read online. They are including nice images, cover images like this from Mansfield Park. You can download all of the material in one of 4 different formats, or you can read them online. So it's a nice, clean version of an ebook, nicely formatted, that you can do different things with that some of the other services don't provide. So this is what I would call enhanced public domain ebooks. How's that for you?
That is perfect. And you're doing great on time. You know, I give you the allotted 3 minutes with each category. You still have a
Right.
minute to spare. And in that minute, I'll just mention, folks, you're probably wondering whether we're going to have some handouts for you or some takeaways. And yes, there will be a PDF that Leah will send out tomorrow with links to all of these. So don't feel like you need to madly capture them right now. So you have a nice spreadsheet with our crib notes and the categories and all of that. So coming to you tomorrow. So Gary, that pulls us to our next category, which is going to be research discovery tools. I think we have a couple, maybe some old and new to show here, because we often will bring new features back from old tools that we've shown before.
Exactly. A tool that I talk about quite a bit because I'm a regular daily user of it is called Semantic Scholar. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. I use their email updates to discover new materials. Highly recommend it. I get a lot of things often within a day of the time that it's added to the database, which is often within a day or two of the time the article is actually made available. But what I want to point out here is something that they started beta testing in the fall of 2020, and they're calling it TLDR, too long don't read. And it's their effort to provide summaries of the articles, automatically generated single paper summaries right on the search results pages. They're beta testing this right now for computer science, but as is the case with a lot of things, it's beta now, and they will gradually expand the technology as it gets better and try different domains of research. So this is one particular updated feature, TLDR from Semantic Scholar. And if you don't know, Semantic Scholar is a well-funded project. Paul Allen's artificial intelligence organization based in Seattle is funding it. And as you can see, 193 million papers across all fields of science, both direct feeds from publishers, as well as open web, open access material. So it's both paywalled material and open access material. But again, not only is TLDR useful, in my opinion, it's something we'll probably see from others, but also their email alerts.
Yeah,
the other
perfect.
resource.
Go for it. Let's go down under, down to Australia.
Yes, this is from an organization based in Australia. It's called The Lens. The name of the organization is Cambria. They just announced a partnership working a little bit with SPIE. But this, in my view, is the most powerful academic search tool available online. But yet there's more. It's academic search and patents, and in some cases they can tie the two together. You don't have to search, you don't have to search with an account. If you get you can sign up for a free account and you get extra features. You can see all the different ways of narrowing and focus your results. This is taking the knowledge graphs of several databases, including Microsoft Academic Search, including PubMed, including the core database from the UK, merging them all together. Just to give you an idea of what a search results page would look like, I'll just search for the term Ethernet.
Trivia question: Who invented Ethernet?
I can't think of his name right now.
Robert Metcalfe.
Robert Metcalfe. There you go. You're giving me a few extra minutes, but which we don't have. I'm getting old. I couldn't come up with that. But you can see there's visualization available by leading organizations, scholarly works over time, leading authors, all with their ORCID ID number. And then you can, of course, narrow and focus your results to just, here's one, if the metadata is available, you can limit by open access color and open access license type. In some cases too, if you weren't doing a focus search, you can then narrow and focus your results using some of the colored links next to what they call additional info. So for example, I can click on this, I can click on, pre-built collections. And again, you can do this both for academic material using the knowledge graphs that I mentioned earlier, as well as, so for example, I could click on this article and go and limit my search just to open access articles. Or from right here, I could go directly to the patent that's affiliated with this type of Ethernet research.
This is great, and I know we could go even so much further. This one is one of my favorites that you found recently.
Yeah.
But we need to keep hopping.
One more quick thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, just one.
You can sort different ways. You can save your queries, and you can export your results if you're logged in a variety of different formats. Over to you.
Okay, Gare. Next up in our user chosen topics, their third was open data browsing. And I think we have 3 candidates here in the open data browsing.
Open data browsing. Let me find that on my list. There we go. Oh, good. I'm glad this was in the top 3 because I've been looking forward to sharing these with you. Well, one you've already seen, which I'm not going to open, called WikiStream. And that is that real-time feed of all of the edits being made on Wikipedia's English language, all languages. You can narrow by bots only, by people who are registered, so on and so forth. So we'll get past that one. And we'll now look at one of my favorite new resources over the past year, one that we haven't shared before, and this is called Reasonator. And I'm pronouncing it correctly, aren't I?
Perfect.
I was calling it Resonator for a while because I'm a silly guy. So along with Wikipedia, Wikimedia has a variety of projects going on. One of them is Wikidata, where they are collecting and organizing thousands and thousands of data sets. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you're looking at it, using Wikidata as a search tool can be challenging, especially if, like me, you're not a coder. So you can't go directly to the API and you don't know how to code in Sparkle. Reasonator makes it a lot easier to see the types of data they have available in Wikidata. And in some cases, it can become a very useful ready reference tool with links to the underlying material. So I will click on Nelson Mandela and we'll give it a second to resonate. And hopefully we will see here in a moment a variety, here we go, a variety of information about Mandela in one place. So for example, you get information about him, your grandson's name. I mean, again, this is coming from a variety of data sets. Religion, birth name. So there's a ready reference component to this.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's
what I like about it too, Gary, if I could offer, is that if you're a student learning about open data projects and open metadata and how to do this linking, this is a wonderful entry point, and to see kind of what's possible, and then learn how to do Sparkle queries and create RDF triple stores and all the good stuff underneath. This is a wonderful kind of shallow end of the pool dive into this area. It's great.
Right. It's a great example too of what can be done to aggregate a variety of data.
Right.
One of the other things that's really great about it, let me move this over here, is that it gives you direct links to where the data is coming from. So you can see here, let me go back up to the top. You can see all of the external sources that the data that you see on the left side is pulling from. So it might be his the Canadiana Authority record. It might be something from the German National Library or the Dutch National Library. It might be something from the Finder Grave Memorial Database, the Goodreads database. It's taking all of these disparate data sets and putting them all together. So not only do you have the ability to see what the underlying data looks like, you have the ability, which I love as a reference librarian, to go directly to that underlying data source. And should we go on to the next one?
You know what? I think I'm going to suggest we hop categories, because the last one, it's in their PDF when they get it, and it's snacks, social networks, and archival context. Check it out when you get the PDF. Let's go to our next category. What do you think?
Okay.
Okay, so next up, voted number 4 was new collections. So we're always interested when a lot of data goes public, and what do we have in this regard? New big collections that have been made.
These are probably ones that some of you already are aware of. One, while it's not new per se, it's grown immensely in the last couple of years. While most of the people, or a lot of the people on this call, are familiar with ArtStore as a service as a database to provide a fee-based service, if you like, a subscription service. Over the last year, the ArtStore database what they call public collections has grown on a very regular basis. And these are all, to the best of my knowledge, CC0 or usable Creative Commons licensed material that you can access. So for example, in the last couple of months, they added 1,000 images from the Phillips collection, which is where I am here in Washington, D.C., 5,000 images from the Magnum Photos collection, images from the Scilab archives. So again, it's open searchable material from ArtStore. It is no longer, ArtStore is now accessible to those who don't subscribe as well, and they can actually access images and the like.
Right, perfect.
The other one came about a year ago. I remember the day, it was probably the last time I sat in a public library before they all closed at the end of February. It's amazing what I can remember where I was when I posted something. But this was announced last February. If you haven't seen it, when they launched, there were 2.8 million high resolution 2- and 3-dimensional images from across the entire Smithsonian select museums and other services they offer. So this is a very powerful open access platform. You can take a look at it, you can search it, do all sorts of things with it. They encourage you to show them what you've used it for. And for those of who can do developing, there are developer tools available, a lot of lessons plans for teachers and so forth. So this, in my view, was probably one of the largest, if not the largest, open access collection made available during 2020. And if you haven't seen it, and by the way, there are 3D elements available as well. I encourage all of you to take a look at it.
With the minute or so remaining, could you go into 3D Voyager or one of these just so we get a little bit more of a flavor?
Right. So you can download 3D images from, for example, the Orbiter space shuttle. Some of this stuff was available before, but because they've aggregated everything together with this nice interface, it's a lot more easily accessible to people. So again, these are 3D models that you can actually download and use. Like you might do something from, what's it called, Sketchfab or Sketchlab. The same type of thing that you could do with those are now easily available in one place from the Smithsonian.
That's great. And I think for corporate folks that are doing stuff, sometimes they use things like Unsplash, which are open photo databases, like stock photo images that are open. They have no idea. They don't even think about something like this that could be as useful or more useful for their projects, right, or PowerPoints and things like that.
I heard the bell. That must be time to move on to the next one.
You are indeed correct. Let me look at our next category. Hold on one second. It is TDM, which stands for
Text and Data Mining.
Text and Data Mining.
This one is, again, worthy of an entire presentation, but I want to point out that over the last year, it's now called Constellate. This is from the folks at JSTOR in Ithaca, but this is a complete educational tool for those who are interested in learning about text and data mining, where you can actually create a data set using open accessible JSTOR data, and then use that data set to do your research. So you can, as it says, build a custom database add additional visualizations in the Jupyter Hub. So it's both a practical tool to create data sets using open JSTOR data, but also perhaps even more importantly, it's an educational tool to learn and teach how to do text and data mining. And it's a completely free resource.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. It's kind of an end-to-end solution for people that are learning the toolkit, so students and professors, and they're really focusing on digital humanists who really need these next-gen tools to do a lot of their kind of next-gen text data mining work. It's TAPI. Who is TAPI and who are the partners, Gary? I think there's a couple universities involved in it.
So it's JSTOR along with Duke, University of Illinois, University of Arizona, and the University of Virginia.
Right.
So kudos to JSTOR Labs and our friends there and the partners. I think this is a really important resource. And again, for teachers, for that K-12 community, a lot of this stuff might not be readily known to them. And it's really important for whatever type of library or whatever you do to let this community know about how these resources are out there and how they can benefit from them.
I think, did you mention the Jupyter notebooks as well?
I did not.
Okay.
I think, go ahead.
Sure.
No, you go.
Oh, well, just, so the ability to kind of visualize some of these data sets and do other interesting things with it and present them. So that's what I mean by end to end, from harvesting data to making sense of it and crawling across it algorithmically and then visualizing it and sharing it out. I mean, they've thought through the whole sort of scholarly workflow here. It's really smartly designed.
I would say this is probably the #1 educational tool on our list and a real highlight of something that was being developed over 2020.
Yeah, it's great. Yep. You ready for the next category?
Mm-hmm.
Next up, digital newspapers. I think we have 2 interesting things to show here.
This is a project that launched last year from one of the researchers in residence at the Library of Congress. This is using technology to actually be able to keyword search millions of the photos, 1.56 million historical newspaper photos in chronicling America. So he's using the OCR and other types of technology to actually say, to keyword search images that have no text associated in the image. So if I want to search the word pineapple, for example, you can see, it's good. Sometimes it could be better, but they're using, they're using the words around the image and so forth to actually help you identify the images. So again, all these images are open access. So I think this is something that might be useful to a lot of people. So that's the newspaper navigator search from the Library of Congress. And then the other one is real quick. This is see if we can get this to open. We don't have a link to, we'll have to go back and add that one. But this is just an atlas of digitized newspapers and metadata from, I believe, a European project that you can take a look at and learn more about how newspapers and metadata work together. We'll have to get the link for that one and add it to.
Oh, sorry. We didn't have that link in the in our little Zotero database.
Which, by the way, is another open access tool, Zotero, which comes from George Mason University, not far from me in DC.
Yeah.
It's the research management tool that I use, and Curtis and I have used on other projects to keep resources organized and allow us to share them back and forth.
Yep, exactly. Okay, excellent. So next category. This one I would say is rather timely. It's the category of misinformation, fake news, and the like. So we got several things to show here.
We have 2 here. The first one is just a weekly roundup from the Associated Press that I find very useful, both as somewhere just to learn about how fake news works online and how it's being disseminated and what stories are being disseminated. Let me turn that off. So this is an example of one from, it's technically called Not Real News, a look at what didn't happen this week. And I do my best to include them every Friday when they come out, every Friday or Saturday when they come out, I include them on infoDOCKET. But what they're doing is you're using the credibility of the journalists at the Associated Press to go out and find stories circulating on social media and then fact check them with these in-depth fact checks about what is true and what is not true. So this is useful both for those of us who want to be informed about what's going on, but I have found this to be a very useful educational tool as well, either to say, this is something that you might want to check on a regular basis, or just to show people what is going on and what is circulating on social media over the past week in terms of what the journalists at the AP are finding to be true or false.
And Gary, just a quick question on that. How would you contrast that one with, say, Snopes as a service?
Well, Snopes is really going into, there's a lot on Snopes every single day. So this is much more focused. This is maybe taking 5 or 6 or 7 every week and going in depth on those versus the vast set of resources and the vast set of false claims that are being fact checked on Snopes on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yep.
The other resource, which doesn't seem to be opening right now, let me check another browser and see if it works. Uh-oh. This is from Oxford University, as you can see in the UK, and you can take a look at these yourself, and we will double check the link. It worked as recently as this morning. Is the Computational Propaganda Project at the Oxford Internet Institute at Oxford University. And again, every week they go through thousands and thousands of stories and don't fact check them, but they're looking at the volume of misinformation online, looking at key words that are being found in misinformation, and actually giving you some analytics on misinformation across the internet. And again, like the AP and its reputation, the computational propaganda folks are often quoted in the media on the proliferation of fake news, misinformation online. So I hope those help. And again, we'll double check that computational link for you.
Yeah, I just tried it on my side. For some reason, their site's offline at the moment. But there's one more, Gary, we should talk about and show in the misinformation category. It's a browser add-on, InVid verification plugin for debunking fake news.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a little browser add-on that you can get either for Chrome or Firefox. And it allows you to check all sorts of different things on a YouTube video, for example. It will give you conversation about it. It will give you the metadata. It will allow you to search Twitter as it relates to that particular thing. It allows you to magnify and allows you to display an image through its URL and zoom in to magnify the actual video. So really, it's a variety of tools all put in one place to allow you to give you some background about a particular video that you might find on YouTube. It gives you video rights information. It's a one-stop shop for doing some fact checking of videos that you find online and specifically through YouTube.
All right. Perfect. All right. Next up, we had privacy and security. And I think we have one here in particular to show from Scilab's Carnegie Mellon, I think.
Right. This is relatively new. And by the way, they announced something else this morning, infoDOCKET guy, that allows you this new opt-out easy tool. But what they launched a couple of weeks ago is a tool that gives you, and we'll again have to check the link on that, that allows you to check about Internet of Things devices located wherever you might be located that might be getting information from you. It's also a great way to visualize the growing effect and the growing amount of Internet of Things tools connected online. It's a research project. It's not 100% complete, but it is also, by the way, I should say, that if you're looking to stay current on what's going on in security and privacy, one of the key places that I check on a regular basis is Scilab from the Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. So again, Opt-out Easy was announced today, and the other tool, which was recently upgraded, is an app for iOS, and that allows you to get an idea, to visualize the Internet of Things located wherever you might be at that particular moment.
What's the name of the app? I think it's called IoT Assistant or something like that. I think.
Yeah, I'll have to. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head.
It's on that link there you were showing a second ago. But
oh, okay. You want me to go back? I can do that. Where are we here?
Under their projects. If people wanted to Google for it in the App Store and you want to know what to look for, I guess you might find it from Scilab, but I think it's called IoT Assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or IoT Assist. But yeah, very cool. Nice.
Just because, yeah. Should be.
Yeah, that's it. It was.
Here it is.
App and infrastructure alerts. That's the one.
App and infrastructure alerts, as you said, about data collection around
Assistant. Them. There it is. The IoT Assistant app. Yeah. That's what they call it.
So
cool. And it's in the Google Play Store too, not just iOS.
Right.
All right, awesome. Into the next category. We're doing great. We've got it's 2:40 our time, Gary, and I think we'll go another 15, maybe 10 minutes. We'll see how far we can go.
Yeah, and then we'll take some questions.
Exactly. Okay, so next up in our list here, let's go into social media browsing tools and so forth. Other ways to look at Twitter streams.
So let me log in here with one of my many. Here we go. This is basically a tool that people who are doing open source intelligence use. And again, it's just one of many that do it. Basically, this is just aggregating a bunch of tools. So it's called Tweet Beaver, and it's from a developer who works very heavily in the open source intelligence community, but allows you to do a variety of different research needs with Twitter. So for example, you can check if two accounts are follow each other, download the user's favorites. It's allowing a non-developer to take advantage of some of the things that a developer who has access to the API and can code with it can do. So for example, if you wanted to download a user's timeline, so I'll just take Reuters here, with one click, and again, the API of Twitter limits anybody to the last 3,200 tweets. With one term, I can
maybe COVID or something, or yeah, there you go.
So you can do this by keyword, or you can go to another link and download everything, and it gives everything to you in a nice spreadsheet, which we're not going to wait for because sometimes it takes a moment or two. So here we go. So with one click or so, I can, or a user can get all of the tweets from a particular user with a particular search term, or just the last 3,200 tweets.
Yeah. And again, this is the non-coders tool. You know, the APIs of Twitter, any developer could do this, but this is just, easy entry point, easy interface to be able to get this data quickly. Yep.
And this is another tool. This comes from the Medill School of Journalism and the Knight Foundation. This is just another way of browsing Twitter search results. So if I search for the word COVID, you will see the most recent tweets. You will see the most popular terms associated with searches about COVID. You will see the most popular hashtags. You will get links to articles and other materials that are found in those tweets. So as I said, this comes from Northwestern in Evanston, Illinois. Knight Lab is funding it. Quality tool from a quality resource. That's how that works.
Perfect. And you had 20 seconds to spare, which I'll give back to you. I'll yield back to you, good sir.
No yielding today.
No, that's coming later today. So next category after social media. Oh, one I care about a lot, and you do too, and it's government open public data, government data, whether it's legislative or congressional reports. What do we have? I think we have 3 or 4 things here to show.
Yeah, they're all legislative research organizations from 4 governments. For years, trying to get access to CRS, Congressional Research Service reports, was challenging at best. In some cases, you had to pay for them. In the last year or two, most of the reports have become publicly accessible, updated on a regular basis, and there's reports about just about everything you can think of. To give you an idea, let me click on one. And by the way, what's really nice is that they not only give you the most recent version by clicking on the first link, but if you click on what looks like a little clock here, you can get archive versions of the report. So you can see how the report has changed over time. But if I click on a report, and by the way, you can narrow and focus your results by topics, by authors, by content types, by date. But for example, if I click on this, these are brief reports. IFs are shorter reports. But if I click on something like, let me show you, let's go to another one here. So here's what they call a primer: background information, everything that somebody with needs a quick briefing on whatever the topic might be, statistics with sources, often with the URLs, they're all in one place. So this is a short, what they would consider a short, what they call an in focus report. It's with 4 pages here. There are much longer in-depth reports available. Now that's what's available from the Congressional Research Service here in the United States. But I want to point out too that similar types of organizations and other governments are making similar reports available now that you know where to find them. So for example, there's a variety of reports that are available from what they call the European Parliament think tank, which is part of the European Parliament Research Service. They have at-a-glance reports, which are hyperlink reports on a variety of topics, shorter briefing reports, in-depth analysis, studies, and fact sheets. To give you an idea, here is an at-a-glance human rights report from the European Parliament. I'll click on that, and you will see a variety of background information with links to the sources on this handy one-pager. So that's the CRS, the European Parliament Research Service. Also, I've given you links, I don't need to open them up right now, to the Canadian Parliament and the UK House of Commons. It's also useful to use for those of us here in the US. It's also interesting in some cases, depending on the topic, to get a non-US perspective on whatever the issue or topic might be. The other link that's here is from the National Conference of State Legislatures. And this is a free service that they make available. And let me go back here. I've got too many windows open. They'll allow you to track legislation by topic around the United States. So for example, if I go to capital punishment, I can then go to a subset of topics, limit by bill number, limit by author, limit by state, and I can get up to the minute information on whatever that legislation might be in whatever states or whatever state or states have pending legislation on the topic. And this data is coming from the LexisNexis StateNet database, but access to this database is completely free. So to give you an idea of what something would look like, here is something that was signed by the governor on 3/23/20 in Colorado, that type of thing.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we've got just a few minutes left. So Gary, I'm going to take the sort of presenter's prerogative here, and I'm looking at the way the categories were voted, and we covered a lot of the top ones, but I want to go to the minority, those people who, maybe that 1 or 2 people who said they wanted to know about geocartographic tools. Let's not leave them hanging. So let's go to the bottom of the list and let's pull maybe 1 or 2 of those mapping geographic cartographic tools we found, open web tools.
This is called GLAD. It gives you a variety of information on a very important topic from the University of Maryland, also located in this case right down the street from where I'm sitting, but just a variety of different maps and tools about global land cover. All the data is open, and you can read here, investigates the causes and impacts of global land surface change using Earth observatory information, slide levers back and forth, manipulate the images to get an idea, for example, of rainforests, how they're being made smaller.
Deforestation, yeah, over the decades.
The other one that I'll mention right now is from the World Bank, and this is a growing project with 50 some different layers of infrastructure, of global infrastructure data. So for example, if I go to digital, if I'm interested in where the submarine is a topic I'm personally interested
I bet you would be interested in that.
But you can map, for example, there's a layer of submarine cable information and get information about the different submarine cables, which move most of the data over the internet around the world. In basic statistical information about broadband, energy information. So this is a project that they launched last year and made available publicly. I believe when you read the actual article, this is something that started internally for the World Bank. And then I believe it was last October, they made it available to the public. The other one that's listed here is called Map Channels. And this just allows you to do, again, with limited coding skills, create all sorts of custom maps and visualizations using just point and click, using both Google and using Mapbox. So for example, you can actually create a map where you can actually move the little pegman and see the map and see the actual street view imagery move at the same time. And you can do all of that without having to do any coding. Just create your dual map by filling in the blanks here. And it's a free service.
Yeah, exactly. Can you go back to the submarine cables for a second?
I thought you'd never ask.
You know, I'm sure it's not lost on anyone. You look at this, and this is vital infrastructure around the globe, and it could be a monkey wrencher's paradise, right? A hacker, a terrorist, etc. This is the price of living in a free society and opening information. I know that's a big topic, but most of these tools are like that, and there's others that we've shown you. I mean, this is a view of critical infrastructure across the globe.
Yeah. Let me also mention that not only can you map it right now, but then you can actually go in and download one or more of the 1,414 data sets. So it's not only a mapping tool, but it's a data discovery tool to go directly to the data sets.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Well, I think we should maybe park here. We've covered a lot of ground. And before we go to Q&A, something I think we should mention, Gary, is that oops, hold on. Oh, stop that timer. You know, if it's not apparent, Gary and I enjoy doing this. It's fun, kind of just a spare time hobby, if anything. But we've thought maybe there's some other avenues we could take this, and we'd like to know from you guys if this would be useful, this kind of information. So if we could just put up one more quick poll and ask, what would be some ways you'd like to receive these kind of open web tool updates? It'd be very helpful for us. We have a kind of working title. What are we calling ourselves? The Info DJs?
Info DJs.
Info DJs, sort of like, playlists. We're going to spin up the latest and greatest of tools and whatnot. So let me put up the same Minty poll again. So if you go to minty.com, put in the same code that you did before, and I'll call it out here if you don't have it. So menti.com is the website. And then the code is 7927100. 7927 100. If you wouldn't mind, how else can we present this information? So the options are, maybe we could do more webinars like these, or maybe we could do them as a weekly podcast, if that would be interesting. We could have an emailed newsletter, Open Web Tools, emailed to your inbox once a week. Or maybe it's even a YouTube video series on something like Open Web Tools. Love to get your thoughts. Just get a quick ranking here. So the data is coming in, Gary.
You want to take some questions, or I have something else I could show, whatever you like.
Yeah, I'll leave that poll open and maybe turn it to Leah. Leah, what do we have it stacked, if there's any in the Q&A box for us?
Okay, well, we had some questions. There was one in particular before about, it was the first, the ebooks e-lending topic. There was a tool that was called Standard Ebooks, and there was a question about whether it included audiobooks.
To the best of my knowledge, and I will ask Alex, but to the best of my knowledge, at this point, Standard Ebooks is just text-based books.
Gotcha. Thank you. That was a question from Jody. There was also a question from Patricia about the data category. She was thinking statistical data, not just information. So if you know of great free statistical aggregator sources, that would be great. So anything that she said mentioned besides Statista.
I'm not going to, I'd be happy, by the way, to get her email from you, Leah, and we can talk about it offline. And that gives me a moment or two to think about it after talking nonstop for about an hour. I can't think of anything at the moment, but if you give me 10 minutes, I probably can, but I don't have 10 minutes right now.
Gotcha.
So if I have her email, I'd be happy to contact her and talk about it.
Yeah, I can get that from the registration information. So Patricia, more coming. And any other questions, if you want to shoot them through the Q&A button or through the chat, those are the two that we had already.
Well, while we're waiting to see if any more questions come in, I'll toss in one other one that was on our list.
Which one?
Pilot Whoops.
Oh yeah, how did we miss that? That's a good one.
So let me share a screen. Can you see my screen right now? No.
No.
Here we go. So this tool has been around for years. If you've never seen it, it's called Pilot Whoops. And it's now run by ProPublica. And what this allows you to do, and it went offline for a while because there was when it was hosted by somebody else, there was some pushback. But now Twitter, and this, by the way, this is the US version. It is available globally. What Powell Whoops allows you to do, is see the deleted tweets of politicians, in this case, members of Congress and the like. You can find out how long after it was tweeted, how long it was up. It gives you a link to the original, if maybe it came back online. So really, this also brings up all sorts of issues, at least for members of Congress and others, what deleted actually means. Because once they delete it, it becomes available through Powell Whoops, and then it gets indexed into their database, which then again is re-indexed by Google. But often you will see that these tweets are deleted, perhaps, or even a staffer is doing it and there's a typo. But now and then you can find interesting tweets when somebody said something that they might have really meant, and then a few minutes later said, maybe I shouldn't have seen that. So again, it allows you to get an idea of what's going on from government members here in the US, and if you go to the other Powell Whoops around the world.
I love it. Since you pulled that one, we had one other we called this category public accountability, and this was one of my favorites. Can you pull up Little Sis?
Sure.
Yeah. We almost need a theme song to go with this one, because it's Map the Power. Map the power.
Or Little Sister, Don't You Know?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is two things, really. It's Oligrapher, which allows you to create your own maps of influence, and this is all free, or, which I'll do right now, allows you to search for somebody or organization or a company and see what this is from a journalism organization. Right. So I can go actually right now to, for example, Bill Gates. Let me make
and we should mention what this means. I mean, they're pulling from contribution data, political contributions, which is publicly available, and then drawing these maps of influence based on that data.
Right. So you see here relationships, business positions of Gates, interactions with other people in the database, his political and other types of giving, who else is given to what he's given to, some political information, if any.
Do you have one of those graphs? Data. I think there's some nice graphs that show these connections. Maybe that's Oligrapher, which is amazing.
Right. Oligrapher not only allows you to see the visuals, but also allows you to create your own visuals of people in the database by just pointing and clicking.
Yeah, I don't know if
and again, all of this data is exportable in a CSV format.
Right, exactly.
Well, I know we are coming close to the top of the hour, but as it is being recorded, if people want to stick around for a few minutes, there are two questions that have come in that maybe we could address in the time that we have left and maybe not go over too bad. There's a question if there are automated tools for doing literature review. Are you aware of any tools for literature review?
Not off the top of my head. There's been a lot of automation in academic publishing and peer review. I can't think of anything off the top of my head the Powers uses, but I'm sure there is something out there. And that's an interesting question. I'd be happy to research it because I am first and foremost a librarian. I'd be happy to research it for whoever is asking the question, because I myself would be interested in finding out who is doing, if anybody is doing work in that area.
Gary, there was, I think, a couple open web tools back. We showed something that was open syllabus, so you could get a scan of what is being taught in various disciplines across various schools, right?
Right.
Remember the open syllabus?
That's one. That was one that we talked about, I believe, last year. And as of now, there are 6 million syllabi in this database, as the Curtis is mentioning, and you can do all sorts of different things with it. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, it doesn't count as a literature review per se, but that's an interesting entry point into, the corpus of literature. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. There was another question from Sarah. Do you know of libraries presenting these resources to the public?
Oh, you just hit a hot spot for Gary.
No, I don't. And I like to learn more about libraries. If there are people on the call who are sharing these types of things, I would love it. But I'm a big believer, and I've talked about this at Charleston in past years, I think open web collection development is something that's sorely needed to not only put these resources, something that Curtis and I talk about a lot, put them where people can actually use them and put them at the place of need. It's not only these resources, but it's also some of the outbound material from these projects. For example, PDF reports and other documents. Right now, you can not obviously there's always exceptions, but some of the reports coming from government entities, from NGOs, from think tanks need to be included right in the library catalog, right in the syllabi, right? And, you know, it's a dynamic, it's incredibly dynamic, but people are missing out on a lot of this stuff, and that's the role of the librarian, of the information professional, of somebody to bring all of these things together. It's something that I try to do, but I think the concept of collecting the open web, archiving it at the time of discovery is something that's really important and needs more attention. So there you go, Leah. That's something that perhaps we could talk about, because I am so excited to come back to Charleston one day. I just can't even tell you. I think about Charleston quite a bit. Yes, a Yankee who just loves the South.
Well, we definitely can't wait to have you back in South Carolina for sure.
Absolutely.
Can I just piggyback? You know, to be fair to librarians, this is not easy to stay up on this stuff. Gary does this 24/7, and these tools are coming online faster and faster and faster. So, but this goes right to the mission of Charleston and to librarianship, as Gary said. And so, hopefully, this was helpful for you guys. And thanks for the feedback on where we might go next. Gary, they voted for email newsletters from us.
There we go. And let me also make one other point very quickly. Whatever I share, and there is a link to this in the archiving section on our list today, but everything that I share anywhere, whether it be on the ARL Day in Review, whether it be on infoDOCKET, something I even share with Curtis via email, a new report that he might be interested in, I'm archiving it at the time I discover it in Wayback Machine. I might be archiving it locally, but I contribute hundreds of thousands of links to the Wayback Machine. And something that you can do now that you couldn't do last year is submit URLs for archiving via email. It's as simple as putting the URL in an email and sending it to them, and you will then have a permanent copy of it, not only for yourself, but you're making the Wayback Machine a much more robust research tool for everyone. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
That's it from us.
All right. Well, thank you again, Gary and Curtis. This was fascinating.
Thank you, Leah.
So great to have y'all back for an update for everything. And good to hear that an email newsletter may be in the works. So thanks to all of our participants for joining us. Make sure that you tune back in for our next webcast. Thank you from the Charleston Conference, and hope everyone has a great day. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.